Our next dish is a raw foods dish. I'm gonna call it allegedly raw because it does contain some olive oil and some Bragg's liquid aminos, which is a soy sauce substitute, which aren't technically raw, but are adopted by the raw community. So now that we have that out of the way, let's get started. We're gonna marinate some mushrooms, then make a raw kale salad, and then a walnut cheese on top. We're gonna get started on the marinade. So take 2 lemons, and we're gonna get the juice of 2 lemons in a bowl. If you get any seeds in there, you can just fish them out at the end. Now we're going to take a 1/4 cup of olive oil. And 1/8 of a cup of Bragg's aminos or soy sauce or tamari sauce. Just fill that one halfway. And then grate 3 to 4 fresh cloves of garlic using your grater. Okay. So that's everything for our marinade. And we'll just mix it all through. And now before we're done with this, grab your 1/4 cup measuring spoon, which you use to get the olive oil, and just get a big scoop of that and set that aside. This is what we're gonna use to marinate our kale salad. So we'll just set this aside for a minute. So you can get something just with some sides on it. So it can be like a baking sheet or it can be a Tupperware container, but this is what you're gonna wanna put the mushrooms in. So get your whole portobello mushroom caps, and these are raw. We're not doing anything to them. We're gonna let them marinate, and that's gonna kind of get them to that meaty texture that we want. We're gonna put them with this gill side up in our baking sheet, and I'll show you what we're doing with these right here. We're gonna just brush that marinade on them. And make sure you kind of push it into all those little nooks and crannies of the mushroom. And after about an hour or 2 in the fridge, or longer if you have the time, you'll see that that really starts to soften it up. So we're gonna do that with all of our mushrooms, and then put these in the refrigerator. So our mushrooms are marinating in the refrigerator, and now we have a great big bowl. We're gonna make the marinated kale part of this. So grab 4 cups of packed kale, put it in a measuring cup and just pack it in there as much as you possibly can. Or if you just have a great big bunch of it, use whatever you have. So 4 cups of packed kale, and then use some of that reserved marinade you had from the mushrooms. We're gonna put that on top. And a teaspoon of maple syrup added to that, just to give it a little bit of sweetness with that bitter kale flavor. So take your clean hands and get in there and start massaging the kale. And remember that we have this great big overflowing bowl, but once we start to do this for a couple of minutes, it's gonna shrink down and reduce to about 2/3 or 1/2 of its size. Okay, so you can see that our kale shrunk a little bit. This also, when you massage kale like this, it also prevents it from being too bitter. If you just have it completely raw with nothing on it, which you can certainly do, it's a little too tart for some people. So this helps make it more palatable. So we're gonna set that aside. For our plating, that's all set and ready to go. Now we're gonna make the final component, the walnut cheese. And this is so simple and tastes delicious. We're gonna have 1 cup of walnuts, add that to the food processor. And then a 1/2 cup of tahini. Tahini is ground sesame seeds, and sesame seeds are full of calcium. So between the kale in this dish and the tahini that we're gonna use, if people say, where do you get your calcium? You can just serve them this on a plate and show them. So we're gonna shake that up. This has kind of a peanut buttery texture, and add a 1/2 cup of that. This is a 1/4 cup measuring spoon, so I'm gonna fill it twice. Now 1/8 cup of miso paste. Just get a little bit of that in there. Okay. And then an 1/8 cup of water, and that's just gonna help move everything along because it's gonna be very, very thick. So process this until everything is mixed through and has kind of a ricotta cheese-like texture. All 3 of the components for our dish are ready. We're gonna start with the kale salad and just put that all over the bottom of a nice big plate. And there's all different ways you can do this and stack this if you want to do the mushrooms first and top it with kale, but I just found that this is a little easier. Otherwise they start to tumble over when they get too full. So we'll do some of that. Okay, and now those mushrooms are marinated and they've become really tender and kind of absorbed a lot of that liquid. So they're not going to be the really chewy kind of styrofoamy mushrooms that you might be used to when you eat raw mushrooms. Okay. And now we will fill the tops of them with some of that walnut cheese and put that on top. Okay, so these are all set and you can leave them just like that, but if you want to garnish them and make them look a little prettier and a little more festive, you can do that with any number of things. I have here some black Kalamata olives. You can add those on top. They give it that nice briny flavor, which complements the miso really well. Oops. You can use some smoked paprika, one of my very favorites. And that's nice just because it has that bright reddish orange color. That looks pretty on top. Ooh, it also matches our plate. You can use toasted sesame seeds and those will help bring out the colors as well with a little contrast. All right, well these are all set and you can actually serve these on individual plates and do it with a knife and a fork because these are very meaty and they're gonna make a delicious main course.